Thanks, Dave. So let's think about why we're talking about real-time marketing now, right? So similar to what we heard about first name personalization, the technology could not always support that. And similarly, we are finally living in the age of real time where this concept is a true reality. And that's because we now have unprecedented access to data and technology that really enables brands to deploy targeted messages with unparalleled precision and speed, right? The key here being speed. And so today, we're going to talk about these three critical components that you need to harness the power of real time marketing and really turn that strategy into truly effective interactions. And this, of course, starts with data collection, right? You literally cannot do real time use cases without having the ability to collect and route that data in real time. So let's dig into what this means. So our journey today in the scenario of a director of marketing in retail that really needs to boost conversions. So this journey will start by simplifying your customer behavior tracking from your website or multiple sites if you have them, your mobile apps, your servers, etc., by centralizing that at the point of collection, a single point of collection, and streaming that data to all of your other destinations in real time, whether that be Braze, Census, or any other downstream tooling. So when thinking about what type of data should I track to implement these use cases, now my recommendation is always start with your use cases. What are you looking to achieve? In this case, you want to drive conversions, right? Is that on your mobile app? Is that on your e-commerce site? Does it matter? Is it just conversions in general? And what are those use cases actually look like? We talked about the elephant in the room, right? Real time isn't always necessary. And so think about where the necessity comes in. So then you can think about what type of data to track. We track event data with a first party tag, and that's really important to note because, of course, the deprecation of third-party cookies, knowing that and having that kind of infrastructure in place is really, really important. And then that event data is routed server side to specific endpoints, which means you can have literally sub-millisecond delivery. And then that event data is added to persisted profiles within your CDP, such as Census. And I think what's even more important here when you think about the data collection piece and the tracking is for anonymous users as well. So we all the time see large groups, I mean like significant numbers of anonymous users that previously aren't able to be addressed, right? But with Metarouter, we actually create our tag creates an anonymous user ID via a first party cookie. That is important. And then the tag syncs the anonymous user ID with a publisher or ID spine so that we add in those addressable identifiers so that you can target them. So these are some key things to think about what you want to track to enable those real-time use cases. And some examples, I was just dealing with a Sephora sale and got some foundation from Elle, so I use that as an example here. Very timely for me, but also within the retail perspective that we're talking about today. And as you're simplifying the consumer or customer behavior tracking from your sites, all these different places, right? In general, as like a very important rule of thumb, better data collection starts with server-side tag removal. So two components to quickly unpack here. One is the idea of tag removal, right? So I encourage you all to think about what tags do you have on your site right now? We typically see an average of like 40 to over 100 third-party tags on e-commerce websites, which is insanity, right? Like trying to manage those tags and understand what tags exist, what data are they collecting, where are they sending that data, where are those tags sending data to other tags, right? It is literal chaos, not to mention the fact that it's making your website slower. In some cases, it can actually bring down websites altogether. We were actually founded on the fact that third-party tags were bringing down multiple retail sites for hours. We've also seen it happen for days with that brand not having control of getting their site back up because a third-party malfunctioning tag has brought it down, right? It's an issue. So we want to remove those tags, simplify to a central point of collection, and make sure that you are in full control. Your website is protected, that you can always drive those conversions because you are handling that collection and that routing, right? So that's one thing to think about. The second thing here is server side. So the main difference between client side and server side tagging is where the process and execution of those tags actually occur. So client-side tagging executes in the user's browser, while server-side tagging executes on the server hosting the website or the application. So in our case, we actually move you server-side. So we can remove those third-party tags and improve the user experience on your website. Additionally, our server-side tracking actually eliminates the fragility and inaccuracies that are introduced by browser-based tactics, right? So things like plugins, ITP, which is intelligent tracking prevention restrictions, and those misconfigured tags that are literally bombs dropped on website. We do not want that. So by providing a direct and a secure pathway for that event data, we're actually unveiling conversion and behavioral data signals even in the toughest tracking environments. So what we see is actually helping brands collect up to 30% more data because of this. And we can ensure that you're tracking your marketing efforts with precision because we're boosting both the efficacy of the tracking mechanism, right? That's safeguarding you against revenue loss that can be associated with poor signal density and poor capture efficacy. Like it is chaos. The other important thing to note here as well is that the ID generated by Metarouter that we use to join all of these events together for a single user persists for a very long time. So because it's a first party cookie that we put on there, right? It actually persists 9 to 12 months, which means the longer the cookie lasts, the longer you can attribute events to that same person. So because it's classed as a functional cookie, it has a longer life than other cookies, especially in Safari, for example, meaning you can join those events together for longer, which for a retail perspective for today's use case is hugely, hugely important. So really our goal, I like to say, we like to help you collect more and better customer data. So as you feed really powerful tools like Census and Braze, you're doing so with better data, right? So we look at ways to address so many different aspects of this at very granular levels, which comes to improving things like data governance, compliance, quality, all up front as you're collecting that data. So it's all improved in transit, in real time, so that your vendors are getting the best data possible. We also make sure that you're sending this data to your vendors in the right format. So things like hashing inputs before you send them so that the data they're receiving is in the right format, right? Instead of, if you're receiving data that's in the wrong format, you have to like manipulate it straight away, put it in the right format before you send it anywhere. It's just like such a pain in the butt when you're really trying to execute things in real time. You don't want to have to deal with that. So we take care of all of that in route, in transit, in real time. So when it's powering those downstream tooling, you are good to go. So taking a step back, looking at our journey today, Kay is going to talk to you about real-time data activation. So once you collect that data, how are you actually activating? But I want to do a quick recap on this data collection pillar because I feel like sometimes it gets overlooked in the importance of executing real-time use cases. That when you centralize and you have a better tag collection and real-time event management tool in place, you're getting more data, you're increasing addressability, you're improving the persistence of those cookies. And when it comes to conversion tracking, we see a huge benefit in the reliability of that tracking. So in many cases, some platforms will show different conversion tracking numbers, and we've seen fights with teams and confusion or time spent trying to figure out like, why is this platform showing something different from this, right? It's like such a pain. So also making sure that everything is talking to each other, that you're eliminating that variability and that time spent trying to dig up where that difference is coming from. We handle that as well. So again, by the time that the data gets to Census and Braze, you are good to go. So with that, I will pass it over to Katie to talk about real-time data activation with Census.